The second week of the National Football League season continues on Sunday, and one writer notes that amid the excitement in the U.S. is a wave of references to sports gambling. Writing in Compact magazine, Christopher Caldwell says in part, quote, the American Gaming Association says $58 billion was wagered on sports last year. Such sums are putting massive pressure on sports, politics, and even journalism. And the author of that article joins us now. Christopher Caldwell is a columnist with Compact magazine and a contributing editor at the Claremont Review of Books. Christopher, great to have you with us. You suggest there are two major problems with sports gambling. The first is the gambling establishment, which takes a cut of the winnings. Can you take us through this process?
Well, this is a particularly big problem because we live in a time when a lot of states and a lot of policymakers are making the case for gambling. And the way they always make it is to say that it's going to do some good for some government-funded program, usually education. That's been the model since the 1990s, roughly. We need casinos so that we can improve our educational system. The problem is, the problem comes in the way that casinos make money. They take a cut out of the bet that two people make, so that now instead of gambling for $100, these two people are gambling for $90, and the second time they do it, they're gambling for $80, and gradually the house will take all their money. So basically, the more generous, the more progressive the programs that a state is able to offer, the less fair its games are.
And I understand, the other major problem, of course, with gambling is it's addictive. Let's talk more about that. And what evidence did you find that people can become addicted to gambling?
Well, I'm not an original researcher, but I did look into a bit of the history of the way we understand gambling. Gambling is, has been variously described, throughout the years as being, taken over by a terrible impulse. It's been described as just a vice, loss of self-control. But there are certain things that have happened in the science in the last 10 or 20 years that lead people to think that gambling does have something in common with alcoholism and drug addiction. When you do brain scans of gambling addicts, of heavy gamblers gambling, they light up some of the same areas of the brain that you get when heavy drinkers are drinking. If you measure dopamine, which is a chemical that expresses happiness in the brain at a reward, they too resemble the brain behavior of an addict.
And Christopher, before I let you go, can you talk about the pressure that athletes and even journalists are facing amid this rise in gambling, and also where do you see this trend going?
Well, I eventually see it leveling off. I think that over time, the costs of gambling, of sports gambling, as many states get it, and as it filters into, high schools and that kind of thing, I think you will begin to see resistance to it grow. But you're right that there is an unusual amount of pressure on a lot of actors in society about gambling. It's not surprising so much that politicians are coming under pressure. The gambling industry has a lot of money to throw around in campaign contributions and in offers of employment to retiring politicians. I was a little more surprised to see how much pressure the media is coming under. Sports gambling works on data, on information. And it's interesting to see how you have partnerships between media entities and gambling companies. So CBS, for instance, has William Hill as its official gambling partner. And that's that strikes me as a new kind of, this hand-in-glove relationship between media and the gambling industry does strike me as a new element in this story.
Oh, Christopher, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about all this really fascinating conversation. We appreciate it.